is
I'm back.
a 8.
Yeah, she was Homo erectus, I believe, and she was found though in the continent of Africa. So, if the Bible says that, Ethiopia, right, the continent of Africa.
Yeah, just because she was. So, I think I got a picture of some of the tools they found, right? But these is just. Hold on, let me see.
Is Wolfson still there? You still there, Wolfson?
I am here.
How do you dispute that?
How do I dispute what?
That the scriptures tell you in Genesis chapter 2, on the 6th day, man was created in the continent of Africa, and according to your science, the oldest remains are found in Ethiopia, the continent of Africa. So the Bible predicted this hundreds of years before your discovery. So it's older than your science. So how do you dispute that?
Well, first of all, the Bible doesn't mention the continent of Africa at all when referring to the Garden of Eden.
Oh, really?
It does.
Oh, really?
It does.
So when Jerusalem, Israel became Israel, what nation did they conquer according to the Bible?
So I'm looking online right now, and I'm reading the most common belief that the Garden of Eden was located in Mesopotamia in modern day Iraq, near the Tigris and Euphrates River.
What
continent Mesopotamia is on?
Listen. It was
Middle East.
Listen, when
Middle East is not a continent.
Listen,
what continent is Mesopotamia on? That would be Egypt, that would be Asia.
No, we're not talking about. We're not talking about We're not talking about Mesopotamia. We're talking about the continent. We're talking about the continent of Africa. So when Jerusalem when Jerusalem, okay. So when Israel conquered the land of Canaan, where's the land of Canaan at? Where are the Canaanites located?
I don't know.
North Africa.
I don't know.
When Jesus went and hid in Egypt, where's Egypt at?
Egypt is in Africa.
So the Bible does speak about the continent of Africa, right?
Sure, but not in relation to the Garden of Eden.
So where's
Ethiopia?
So they walked across the entire earth to get to the continent of Africa.
Walk across the entire earth? No.
So when you have Adam had sons. He had Seth, he had Cain, he had Abel, and all the way down to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. So those are all the people, and they dwelt by Canaan. They walked to Egypt. Moses walked out of Egypt.
Sure.
So you can't say Adam was on another continent, because how can his people migrate?
You're trying to equate the Genesis creation story with other stories that apparently are said to have happened thousands of years later in time.
Yeah, but
wait.
So
what other story? Wait. He's mentioning Genesis. He didn't mention no other story.
Yeah, so I'm speaking of. Okay. So we're speaking of Adam, right? In Genesis, right?
Yes, Adam that was allegedly created in the Garden of Eden.
Yeah, exactly.
Correct? That's what the
text
says. The Genesis story.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what the text
and
says.
This was post-diluvian, right? Before the flood.
Okay, stop for a second. The Bible says the Bible does not equate the Garden of Eden with Africa, right? It doesn't. So, it mentions some rivers and things of that nature. Okay.
So what rivers were mentioned? The Nile, the Euphrates.
The Euphrates and the Nile.
Where are those rivers at?
And Tigris and Euphrates. The Gino. So if you have the Tigris and Euphrates, then it talks about the Gino River. They go through the whole land of Ethiopia. What river goes through the whole land of Ethiopia? It's only one. Okay.
Look, I mean, I'm reading this article by
That'll be the Euphrates,
biblical
right?
scholars. Okay, the most common belief is that the Garden of Eden was located in Mesopotamia, which is now modern-day Iraq.
Now,
So
Iraq is not in Africa.
I'm gonna read something from the historian Josephus. Right? Josephus don't say what that biblical scholars say.
that's right.
Josephus lived around what 100 CE.
Yeah, 2,000 years before that scholar.
Sure.
So what that mean?
And you're citing him as an
predates him. He predates him.
Right.
So who's true?
Sure, but that doesn't mean he's accurate.
How come?
What do you mean? How come?
Because he pulled out Josephus. Yeah, he pulled out Josephus as his scholar. It's his source. His source predates your source.
Being a historian, don't try to make him like he wasn't intelligent at all. You sound like he's just a warrior and a general. Don't try to diminish his role.
But these are people. These are biblical scholars.
In today's time, we would call Josephus a biblical scholar.
Where do you think those biblical scholars in modern day get their scholarship from? So you cut.
So what did Josephus say about the Garden of Eden in Africa?
All right, hold on.
Which is what our topic is about.
Let me pull it up. So he gave the 4 rivers in the land masses, just like in Genesis. But when you go look up those rivers and the names that they're called, it's talking about from Africa to Mesopotamia or the Middle East, like you said. Because we know that in Assyria, the Tigris and Euphrates is both right there and they split. So he's talking about from that space of land, which we call the Middle East, which was not always called the Middle East. Right. So it had to be. So it was once part of Africa, the continent of Africa.
And that's proven. That's proven biblically too. No, it's not technically the continent of Asia.
No, it's not. That's north. What's that?
Northeast Africa.
Northwest Africa.
And then when you got, you got Iraq. So listen. When you got Iraq in the Bible was Babylon, ancient Babylon, right? The ancient Babylonians come from Ham, which is Africans in Genesis chapter 10. Ham gave birth to his sons, Canaan, and he also gave birth to Nimrod, who became ruler over Babylon. So Babylon in ancient biblical history was Africa, sir.
But yet it resided on the actual continent of Asia?
Your geographical lines don't predate ancient historical history. Just because you guys say that now, that doesn't mean it's true.
So wait a minute. Hold on. Wait a second.
So you proud enough to say that Europeans are smarter than ancient melanated people just because you say it's the Middle East, but they say it was Africa.
I'm about to stop talking to you if you start doing this about race.
No, I'm asking. It's not about race. I'm not racist.
He didn't say no race. He just said European.
You just said melanated. What does that mean?
I'm saying so we don't use race and keep it general. I said Europeans say that geographical lines are different from what ancient melanated people said to keep it non-racial, right? I said that specifically.
You could have just said ancient people, not ancient melanated people.
Because ancient melanated people have a different perspective than what European people have, sir. We say it was Babylon, dwelled by Hamites. You say it's the Middle East.
Okay, so I'm just gonna break this down just for my own historical significance, right? Okay, so I'm looking at a map of the world right now, okay, and where we have the borders of our continents, right? So we have Europe, Asia, and Africa, right? The continents of Africa and Asia are divided by the isthmus that's created by the Mediterranean Sea and the Red Sea, in between Egypt and Saudi Arabia, right?
And what continent is Egypt
today.
on, sir?
That is what we have today. Okay, so what are you saying actually belonged with the continent of Africa?
Do they still make you let them
From the Nile, sir?
Between Assyria and Ethiopia. That's all that.
Like, get the fuck out of my room. Like, you seen it? I got get the hell out.
She just tried to come in and shit.
Yeah, like she just opened the door. I'm like, she do.
Hey, so Felipe,
she's probably coming in and trying to look for heroin.
Felipe, can you mute yourself, please?
Get the fuck out.
I mean,
Right there, that's all you need. Get it. Go.
She probably thinks everybody's got heroin or something crazy.
Well, like,
Philip, can you mute yourself, please? Like, we can hear you.
We're close for homeless. And we owed Kenny like $200.
What the fuck was that?
Tommy off power.
I have no idea what that was. What was that?
No. How do you dispute that? He said from Assyria to Ethiopia.
From Assyria to Ethiopia. Let me look to see where was Assyria?
Where the Tigris,
where was Assyria located?
Where the Tiger and Euphrates rivers is, where they meet. Where the Tigris and Euphrates meet, that'll be Assyria.
Okay, so Assyria kind of became Babylon, right? Because they're in the same area, right? Babylonia,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Neo-Babylon, yeah.
Okay. So you're saying that what is currently today, Iraq and Turkey and all of those countries around there,
and also including Palestine as well, because Palestine goes back to the Philistines, the ancient Philistines,
yes.
Which we know Goliath was a Hamite, Africans.
Right. So you're saying that the continent of Africa. The continent of Africa that we know today was not the continent of Africa from thousands of years ago when the Garden of Eden was established, because the past continent of Africa extended all the way up to what is that? The Caspian Sea and the Black Sea, correct?
Yeah, Black Sea, Caspian Sea.
We might have to fact check that.
Part of it, yeah.
Okay, so
all we saying, listen, all we saying is that, like the brother was saying, that this is all dealing with Africa, East Africa, and the Asiatic landmass, which you mentioned, Turkey and Babylon.
can you hear me? Hello?
I think he
cut off.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with that. Yeah, but we just, to his point, we mentioned it all through the Bible, which we all agree these land masses were considered Africa. Why would it stop at the Garden of Eden? The whole story is in Africa. The manuscripts were found in Africa. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay.
So how do you dispute that? You can't dispute that. And so, according to these ancient manuscripts found in Africa, the first person or people were created in Africa, and your science validates that by finding the ancient remains of Lucy that you say in your own science was found in Africa. So how can you dispute Genesis, the creation of Genesis? That's facts.
Because, well, no, it's not. So
That is
evolution
facts.
and creation. So there's a difference between evolution and creation, right? Evolution takes, hundreds of thousands to millions of years. That's how human beings evolved, right? Genesis said God snapped his fingers and spoke a word, and 1 minute there was not human beings on the planet, and the next minute there were.
No correction. He never said in 1 minute. The creation took 7 days, and in the Bible, 1 day to the Lord is 1,000 years. So this wasn't in a minute, as you stating. This is over a transition of thousands of years. So this wasn't just a minute. So you lied.
Hi, Isa. Okay, so whether a day is 1,000 years or not, that's still way, way shorter than evolution.
That's the show that. Go ahead, bro.
No, this the problem that you have.
I'd like to come in this conversation.
Yes, it does say 1 day. Yes, and 1 day is like 1,000 years to the Lord.
So Wayne, you don't just barge in.
It's not even saying that it's 1,000 years though. It's just saying that the Lord controls time. So what seems like a day on earth, what seems like 1,000 years on earth, that's 1 day. It's like a blink of an eye to the Most High. That's what it's saying. And I'm not adding to the text anything of that nature. Also, another factor instance you're not factoring in is that it says over and over that how he stretched out the heavens. So, for instance, if I was to stretch something, like say if I had some clay or whatever, and I was to stretch it out, it started as a ball, and I stretched it out, right? And years later, someone come and measure it with the measurement that whatever device that they invented, they're going to think that they're going to add up how long it takes. They're going to factor in how long it takes to stretch something out that long.
All right, brother, can I just cut in?
They're going to think that I did it that same amount of time when I did it in an instance.
Hold on.
But they are, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So if God stretched out the heavens, this is why they will get the years that they get, because we're measuring it through our devices or measurement devices. We're not God. We're not the one that stretched out the heaven, that expanded the universe. You get what I'm saying? So of course the measurements, the mathematics that we use is going to be off because we're not factoring in that underlying variable.
So, can I now cut into this, brother? Am I allowed to? Yeah? Can I actually say something now?
That's because it say 1 billion years here, 3 point, when that don't even, with the 3 billion years don't even make sense, because if the early hominids was founded, close to what, a quarter million, is it a quarter million,
No, brother, you're not even
years ago, 300 million years ago, those hominids got carbon in them. They have carbon-14 in them inside the fossils.
Brother, you're not
Carbon-14 doesn't last. It has a short lifespan. Also, comets have carbon-14 in it.
Uh-huh.
And stars, newly formed stars, have carbon-14 in it. That should tell you something. But
okay, Wayne, go ahead, man. You're wanting to say something, Wayne. Go ahead.
Yeah, diamonds got carbon-14 in it. What else?
Israelite. Let Wayne talk for just a minute. He's really wanting to say something. So.
Go ahead, Wayne. My bad.
All right. I mean, no disrespect to any brothers in here or any sisters in the room. I don't mean to do that. But I always emphasize to everybody, God made Adam and God made Eve. That was one man, one woman. Then between those two, they had children, and so now we're talking about incest. Harry's...
That has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Hold on. Harry's billions or millions of races born between one nucleus or one egg.
Bro,
Well,
incest is
Now,
condemned,
this is
bro.
where we're
What are
talking
you talking about?
science.
but
This is
listen,
where we're talking
but
science.
still, even Wayne, 1 second.
That's not even what we were talking about.
Yeah, he
So
off
the
all.
whole
He totally off
incest thing,
topic.
we will look at it as
It's the same
incest.
thing, what you were
But-
talking about. It's the same
No,
thing.
it's not.
But you've done it in a different way. You've actually said it in a different perspective. That's what
So
you're doing.
Wayne, that was not what we were talking about.
The whole thing, I want you to just respond about this incest thing. So the whole thing that the science tells us that we all come from one common ancestor. If we all come from one common ancestor, then at one point in time, that ancestor had to procreate with one of their kind.
Millions of people. And
So either way you go is incest. Either way you go is going to be incest. It's just once the people begin to multiply and more people begin to become on the face of the earth, that those things wasn't. There you go.
I kicked him. He's
He throwing off the combo,
He
man.
brought up a good dynamic. He just we can go through that. He brought up a good aspect to the conversation.
I'm not even.
Yeah.
I wasn't even going there, man. I was just talking about, time periods and locations and things of that nature, right? So, I mean, what we consider Africa today, right? I mean, I don't.
Is the Middle East part of
I don't
Asia?
even know. I don't even know how to process that. The continent of Africa shrank.
No,
What's considered part of Africa? The continent of Africa shrank.
no, we're actually adding
Well,
to it because we're saying that Palestine, we're saying Iraq, that's Africa, but it's not considered Africa today. It's considered the Middle East. And why is that?
Well, it's been considered the Middle East for a couple thousand years.
Let's look this up because I know they created it.
The Greeks called that Asia Minor.
So then
Right.
that'd have been Turkey. That'd have been in Turkey. Turkey would be
It'd be
considered.
West Asia. The western
Yes,
part
Turkey
of
and Iraq was Asia Minor to the Greeks, right?
But Turkey was, right?
Yeah, Turkey. Not the entire Iraq.
Iraq is right now.
When you have a continent out, so they had Arabian, you got Egypt right there, and then you have the Arabian Peninsula, and then it goes up to Syria, where the Tigris and Euphrates will be at. That's the border of Northeast Africa. It's the border of it. Asia don't start until you get to India and then going into China.
Right.
That's why they call it the
So
Middle East.
Wilston, would you consider modern day Israel? Would you consider that Africa, on the continent of Africa, or would you consider that the Middle East?
Better yet, what is it the Middle East of?
All right.
So the current day, Israel, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, right? Those are all considered to be on the continent of the Middle East.
Right.
On the continent of Asia, what we call the Middle East.
Right. Now, wasn't there a Suez Canal created for shipment of goods, which divided that to say, hey, this is the Middle East, and this here is now the Middle East, and this is here is Africa, when historically we see Jerusalem and Israel migrating to Egypt, which is right there on foot in the continent of Africa. We do see that in Israel, it was taken over by it was the land of Canaan originally, which are Hamites, Canaanites, Africans. So whose history should we believe? Yours or the actual melanated people's historical evidence that it's
made up?
Okay, there you go again about race. There you insinuated race again.
No,
Right?
it's not. No, it's not race. It's not race.
You said mine. You said my
Did I?
people or
No,
melanated people.
No, I'm saying because you're going off of what your forefathers said the lines are, and we're going off of what our forefathers said. It's not about a racial thing. It's just the truth, right?
Correct. But ain't no such thing as a Middle East. That term made up.
I mean, if that was, if that was, considered the part of the continent of Africa back then, what was this, 4,000, 6,000 years ago? Okay, I mean, I would just have to take your word for it, because
No, don't take my word. Take the evidence.
We've had the continent. We've had the continents of Europe, Asia, Australia, and Africa pretty marked off for at least since the Greeks.
Yeah, but that was a colonization period as well.
The Mediterranean, like that whole area, or the Levant, or things like that. And it was definitely called Asia Minor because, like, even when you get into that region, like the DNA structure changes of the people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but that can happen through migration, sister, and colonization and conquering and migration. That's how that happens. So like today in America, we call ourselves Americans, but where are the actual original Americans? Right? That's what we're saying that happened historically through these ancient cities and towns that they're now calling the Middle East, but we know that it's Africa from our forefathers' historical documents.
Well, if you want to go back that far, we're all Africans, right?
I'm just confused on what's the point being made.
That's what science says.
The original point. Hold on a second. Let me explain it to Issa real quick. So the original point was saying that Saint was trying to say that, or was claiming that the Bible claims that the Garden of Eden, where God first created man, resided in Africa. And I looked it up, and the common consensus is that the Garden of Eden was located in what is today Iraq, in modern day Iraq, which is not part of the African continent. And that's where we got to the whole argument of what is and what is not part of the African continent.
And
today is not part of the African continent.
Right, and we proved that Iraq, it was originally a part of the continent Africa through the scriptures, because we know Babylon is where modern day Iraq is.
But what are we meaning by that?
So that was part of our homeland.
What are we meaning? Are we talking about that you can find African people in this place, or are you saying that like this country was connected to the continent of Africa? Because I think we're saying two different things.
So we're saying both. It was connected to the continent of Africa, and you can find African people over there.
That's the end. That's the end of it. Well, I think it's the Euphrates is first. Yeah, the Euphrates will be the border of Africa, Northeast Africa.
So, are you also including? So basically, you're including Saudi Arabia, all of that around the Mediterranean Sea, all the way up to Greece. Does it stop at Greece and Italy? Or is that Africa too?
No, Greece. No, Greece is Greece will be in Europe. Cause you got Crete, and then you have Greece above that. Yeah, those would be islands. So, a continent is surrounded by water, right?
Do you see my screen?
A continent is a large landmass. Yeah, because it sounds like they're just engulfing the Mediterranean countries, all those countries surrounding the Mediterranean Sea, into Africa.
Okay,
And
you're saying.
go ahead, honey.
But yeah, all that is connected. All that. Asia is over here. Where you see India. What's that up there? What's that? Uzbekistan and stuff like that. That's that. Past the Caspian Sea. Well, no. I ain't gonna even give you that much. I can't give you. It'll be right there where Syria is. Because the rest of that's India and stuff. It's East Asia.
Let's also
Can we agree that's why they call it the Middle East?
right. Let's also go by. You uphold the Bible as an authority on this, while I and the scientific community does not. Right.
Well,
so the Bible can say that is Africa, but I don't agree with that.
Right.
Because there's no reasons for me to believe that the history of what it dictated in the Bible is actually true.
Yes, we do.
Okay,
we can validate
we still
that.
talking about the Garden of Eden here?
Whatever you want to move to.
That's in general, but
okay. So if you're saying, how do we validate our claims? Is that what you're saying?
yes.
So how do you validate any claim? Through evidence, right?
Of Africa. Can y'all share a screen and show him? Because it is there.
What'd you say? You said, I'm sorry, Butterfly?
I'm sorry. I was saying that he's right. Garden of Eden is in continent of Africa. I said if he can share a screen and show it, then you can be able to see it.
Yes, I got a picture. Let me see if I got a picture. I don't got it. This one. It's in my other phone. But y'all can just share a screen. Y'all can share a screen too, though. I mean, if y'all got it, just put up Africa, and you will see that little piece from when you have Egypt. It's a little piece right there. That's going through Saudi Arabia, the Arabia Peninsula, and also what we call the Gaza Strip. And at the end of the Gaza Strip is where Syria is.
My race.
But they make it, you know how the maps are.
It's simple, man.
Okay,
It's simple, man. When
here's another view. Hold on. So here's another view. So those two green circles right there is where the Garden of Eden has been proposed to had proposed to have been existed. Right. So we got one down here by the Barren Strait near Kuwait, and then but the biggest ones that the most consensus is up here near Turkey, north of Iraq.
No, that's that'll be where the what's called landed. I would say it would be at the bottom, right off the coast of Ethiopia, right there. And you can see
exactly where Lucy.
Tigris and the Euphrates River. Like, where is that at?
Right there.
Because does that flow through Africa?
No. That's not the Tigris and the Euphrates. Tigris and Euphrates in there goes Syria. Yeah. Okay, it's right there. I thought that was the
And follow how it goes all the way through.
And does it flow through Africa?
Show how it flows.
So.
Show how it flows. Flows all the way down here to Kuwait.
So it flows through Africa.
It goes from the Black Sea and Caspian Sea up there down to Kuwait and to the what is that, the Bering Strait?
So they call that right there. They call that the Gulf of Eden. You know they call that Gulf right there the Gulf of Eden. Or or Aden.
So if Eden is supposed to be in the middle or like next to the Euphrates and the Tigris, how are y'all putting it in Africa?
No, it don't supposed to be next to it. The Euphrates and the Tigris is the border of it. It's from the border of this. So the border is from which one? The last one is Tigris. So it's
Border
from the Tigris.
and next to.
It's from the
Wouldn't that be the
Tigris.
same thing?
No, the border. I'm showing you the range from it. So the border is the outskirts of it. I mean, not the outskirts of it. So it goes from the Nile River to the Tigris, to the Tigris River.